sewing friends, my name is Katerina. I'm with KM Sews, and today I will show you how to make a cosmetic pouch fairly easy and quick. It is one of my patterns, and how I got to this pattern was actually funny because 2 years ago we had a Christmas party, and I was trying to do something for the ladies during the Christmas, just to cheer up everybody. And so I had something already for the ladies, but then I was thinking of, well, what am I gonna give the guys? So it was a couple days, and we have like 25 guys in our work, and it's like, so what am I gonna do that goes quick and easy? I'm always a last minute person with gifts, so that didn't make it any easier. So a couple days it took me to just sew up 25 of these pouches and fill them up with some toiletry stuff for the guys, and this is what I came up with. So for the gents, I did this. This is very easy, goes quick, no fuss. It is made with vinyl. It has that zipper. The zipper is actually attached to the lining, so there's no extra fabric, no extra doing things. The inside, you open it up, you can open it very wide, and it can fill up with a lot of toiletries, shaving stuff, and who knows what. So I have the link to the pattern down below, and let's go start with cutting the pieces all together, and let's go and sew this cute little pouch. Well, here are the pattern pieces. I cut them already out of my instruction, and we need pattern piece B, which is for the fusible fleece, because it's been stabilized with fusible fleece, or you can also use Decovil Light. So this is that pattern piece. Then we have one pattern piece, which is for your exterior, which you cut on the fold. And then if you like to have your pattern or your pouch in an accent fabric, I also did this one here. So you have an accent fabric on top of your vinyl, and this is heavy quilting cotton, and then you got the vinyl down below. So you would use pattern piece C and pattern piece D, and you need to cut out 2 of pattern piece C and 1 of pattern piece D again on the fold. So today I chose a very, very pretty vinyl, which is this beautiful purple. I love that one. And for the lining and even for the accent fabric, I use this beautiful cotton, which has some gold inside. So with that, I also have a zipper tape by the yard. I love sewing with this. It's easier, and you can just cut it to size whatever you need. And this is also in this purple with a silver nylon zipper. So let's go and start with cutting. Okay, so we got pattern piece C, which is for our accent cotton fabric, and we have pattern piece D, which is our vinyl, or I use it for the vinyl. Let's put the other one away. Usually what I do is I take my vinyl and I roll it out right side down or wrong side up. Then you take your pattern piece D, and I would just trace it around the outer edge, and then I would just flip over this pattern piece and continue tracing, and I'll be cutting it out once everything is traced on my vinyl. So let's go and start do that. Once you're finished with tracing out your pattern on your vinyl, you can either, let's put this aside, use your scissor or you can use a rotary cutter to cut out that piece. I usually tend to cut out everything with my rotary cutter. However, the inside here I would cut out with the scissor because it's easier than the rotary cutter, since I don't want to cut into my vinyl inside here. So let's go ahead and let's start doing that. Okay, so here's our bottom piece of the pouch. So we put that off to the side. Now we'll take our accent panel, which is this beautiful fabric here, and we will be cutting out 2 pieces of pattern piece D. And what we want to do is, I included on this pattern piece, I included here to show how the grain line is and how you should put that piece on your fabric. Because the grain line, as we go and we stretch on the grain line, if you go with the grain line, it doesn't stretch, but if you go against, that will stretch more, and we don't want stretch. So here's the selvage, and if you take the selvage, the grain line is parallel or runs parallel to that selvage. So we will be cutting 2 pieces of this, and what I will be doing is I'm just flipping this, putting here a double of that fabric, making sure that the selvage kind of touches. I'll be placing my pattern piece on top of it. Now I cut 2 pieces out. So, and I use my rotary cutter because it's easy for me. I'm used to it. But again, you can transfer it on your fabric and then just cut it out with the scissors. I just tend to do it this way because again, it's much easier. Okay, so we're almost there. Good. So let's put this off to the side. So we have now 2 pattern pieces, accent panel D. We're done with this one here. Let's put this away. Now we have to use the pattern piece B, which pattern piece B is you're cutting your fusible fleece, or you can use Decoville Light to give the pouch stability so it can actually stand up like this. And we have to also cut 1 from the interfacing. You can use SF101 or you can use woven fuse, which is for your lining. I have done that already. So I have my interfacing cut and I have my fusible fleece cut. I just want to say one thing about interfacing. I've seen many comments that were asking, well, which one is better? Is woven fuse better? Is SF101 better? Well, here's the difference between woven fuse and SF101. And obviously it is your preference, whatever you like to use, whatever, well, maybe it's sometimes less expensive because it can get expensive when we use all this interfacing. But here's the difference. So this is a piece of woven fuse. And as you see, it's fairly tightly woven. It appears to be thicker. It's, as you see, I have it on my hand and you can really not see my hand through that as much because it's so tightly woven. Well, here's the difference to SF101. SF101, as you see, is already much lighter and it's not as tightly woven, and you can see my hand through my fingers. And like I said, it is, you see how this one is more stable and this one here is a little bit, well, less stable. So in my opinion is you get much more stability with the woven fuse. I mean, I tend to think so. than with the SF101. So that's why I use or like to use this woven fuse. Okay, so now we have another piece that we have to cut, which is your lining. And for your lining, you would have to use pattern piece 1. So if you are planning on doing your pouch just with one, without an accent panel, you just want one piece of fabric, either if it's vinyl, if it's cotton, then you would use pattern piece A and you would cut that on the fold line. The same is for the lining. For the lining, we would use this pattern piece and cut it on the fold line, again with the grain line as indicated here, and we cut it on the fold line, and I already did that as well. So here is my lining, and this is how it should look like. So we got that lining piece. Okay, so now we are going to attach, or we are going to fuse our fusible fleece, not the fusible fleece, but the interfacing to our lining. So let's put this off to the side. And what we want to do is we are lining it up to keep approximately 3/8 of an inch seam allowance open, because we don't want everything in the seam allowance, which will create bulk. And this pouch you can sew easily on a domestic machine if you use vinyl. And here's another one in red. So it is very easy, domestic machine friendly. So that's why we keep that out of the bulk, out of the seam allowance, not to create all this bulk. So let me go ahead and fuse that. So it should be just attached like that you cannot pull it up. So now this is good, it's ready to go. You can set this off to the side. Now the fusible fleece we will be attaching at a later time, because we first have to sew the accent panels to our vinyl, and then we can attach the fusible fleece. In order for doing that, we just take our piece, our vinyl piece, take one of the accent pieces and place it right sides together onto the vinyl. Now you see here, we have to leave a little tiny tail of the vinyl shown, because when we stitch it together at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, it would just perfectly line up the accent panel with the vinyl. So let's attach that, and we will be doing the same on the other side. Alrighty, let's do it on the other side, and again we're lining it up, leaving just that little tail. What you also can do is, at times I've seen that some people first interface their fabric before they put fusible fleece, but I don't have problems, because sometimes the fusible fleece will make some pleats or some, it just kind of creases and it looks not great, but I've never had problems with that, because I move my iron constantly when I put that fusible fleece on it, and I guess it helps it, I don't know. So let's go to the sewing machine and let's just put this, stitch it together at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So here we are had our sewing machine, and I have a kind of like a lavender thread, and I'll be sewing this now together at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance at approximately 2.8 or 3 stitch length, because I'm using vinyl, so I don't want to necessarily perforate my vinyl too much. So let's get started. And one thing, always backstitch at the begin and at the end of your sewing. So let's get started. Alrighty. Now, since we use vinyl, we cannot necessarily iron it, so we will be just finger pressing it open. And you see, because we had left this little tail from the vinyl, it just kind of lines up nicely with the edges of the vinyl. So now we will be opening up the seam, finger pressing it, and then we will be top stitching from both sides of that seam to keep it in place. First of all, it gives it a nice look once your back is finished, and then it kind of holds your seam allowance here in place. I use a zipper foot, and my zipper foot is 1/8 of an inch, so I can just align my zipper foot right on the edge of the seam, and I know it's 1/8 of an inch. I increase my stitch length to, well, 3, a little bit more than 3, and again we're back stitching, just 2 back stitch. And then also make sure that your seam stays open. And then just turn it around, and then start again on the other side. Alrighty. Again, snip off your thread. Do on the other side. Beautiful, and this is how it should look like. Perfect. So now we can snip off these little tails that we have here. Just snip them off so we have a nice edge. Great. We can now fuse the fusible fleece onto the exterior panel, main panel, and I will do that off camera the same way as we did the interfacing, making sure that we keep it out of the seams to reduce bulk. So it will be 3/8 of an inch off of that seam allowance. So I will meet you right back when I'm finishing that fusing. Alrighty, now we have that fusible fleece attached to the exterior as one piece, as you can see, and we can place that off to the side, and we have to now go to the lining panel and attach our zipper to the lining panel. Here's our lining panel, and here's our zipper. Like I said, I like to use a zipper by the yard. Reason being is it's kind of easier to attach to this piece because I can separate it and attach either side of that zipper onto each piece and put it then later on together with the zipper pull. So let's do this, and in order for me doing this, I have to draw a line, and the line is going to be from one edge to the other edge, and it will be approximately 1¼ inch away from that corner. So I align my ruler and I draw a line from one side to another, and starting at 1¼ inch away. I guess I use a chalk marker, it's easier. Away from the edge, so 1¼ inch, and I draw my line. And I will be doing the same on the other side. It's going to be 1¼ inch away from the edge. And that chalk line is going to become my sewing line. This is where I will be sewing on my zipper. I do the same thing on the other side. I go from that corner, right where the corner, where that little hump starts. So that's where I'm going to draw my line to the other corner. 1¼ inch away. Here we are. And draw that line all the way to the other side, also 1¼ inch. And that will be our sewing line. Great. Now, since we have done that, we will be taking our zipper by the yard. And I usually I have the measurements of the zipper. I have it on the pattern piece that you can, again, there's a link below. I cut it a little bit bigger since I still have to add zipper tabs onto both sides of the zipper, and it's just easier when it's a tad longer than too short. And that's what we're doing. So I cut that to size right now. And then to prevent the zipper from fraying, I take my little lighter and just kind of light this one here. That will keep it from fraying. So now I'm lining up my zipper. So it's about the same size it overhangs the same size from both sides. And what I will be doing is I'm just going to draw a line right where the edge is, or the end is, of the marked line. That's why I'm going to draw a line on the zipper. Reason being is because I will be taking my zipper apart and attach the zipper individually onto each side of my lining. So, and that gives me kind of guidelines where I actually started the other one, so it's not crooked or good. So now I'll be separating my zipper. Put one off to the side. So I have my markings right here. There's one marking and there's one marking. And I'll be lining both sides. I will be lining it on the, I should have done it the other way, exactly on the chalk line. So I'm attaching the zipper right on the chalk line, right sides down, to match where I begin. There you go. And I will be clipping it into place. just to hold on to it. And I will be doing the same thing on the other side. So very lightly, just, there you go, line it up. And then we will be sewing it just where the zipper tape is, right here. Very close, right on the marked chalk line. And we will be sewing it into place. And here we, again, we're using like 2.5 to 3 stitch length. And again, we will be back stitching. And we're starting right where the 1.25 inch line begins. I'm sorry, at 1.25 inch away from the edge. And we back stitch. Okay, so now we have attached both zipper sides onto the fabric, onto the lining. So this is how it should look like. So we got here the zipper and here the other side of the zipper. Now we just have to put the zipper pull on it. So I have a zipper jig. You can use a fork, you can use other methods of putting your zipper onto that zipper tape. I will be using this very nice zipper pull right here, and I'll be using real quick the jig so I can put it on. Just